I absolutely love this topic. And earlier in the week in the Facebook group, I asked the question about, how many people have ever felt like some nervousness or something like that around just sharing your exit plans with other people. And there were a lot of you that responded, "Psh, not at all. Like I'm on my way out. Not at all. Not at all. I don't have any problem." Some people that were just slightly more reserved. But the reality is, I think about my experiences and when I was in my transition, um, when I first started that transition, like got serious and all right, I'm going to do this, I was slightly cautious. I had already been sort of like, I was out there, I'd started the podcast. I never shied away from saying I didn't do anything. But I had moments in time where I'm like, okay, I want to lay a little bit low, even though I'm out there on social media everywhere. And so the one thing it made me think about is so often there are some of you and some folks who want to lay so low and not let anybody hint in on anything, or are probably nervous that if your boss finds out, well, what do they think, and you're not ready, and what if you lose your job, or what if they think you're not working or not doing whatever you're supposed to do. Well, here's the deal. When you're in a transition and you're serious about being in a transition, yes, you may need to lay low, especially depending on what your job is. But what you want to do is you want to still show up for yourself, because the reality is that once your transition is over, right, they have disappeared. They will have become a distant memory. So the time that you're taking during that transition and how you use it, you want to maximize it. So that's what I want to talk about today. And now I do have something for you guys today. And those of you that have been on previous lives, I tend not to use slides. So you'll just hear me talking, and I'll only be on for about 20 minutes. But I want to give you some things to walk away with. Now today, I've put some of these things, and I put some extra ones in there into this audit. And I'll give you the link before we get off the live so that you can download it. You can have it. You can go through yourself, see if you're on point, see if you're really taking advantage of what you need to do during the transition. All right? Okay, so let's get started on this. So one of the first points that I think you should be considering is when you think about LinkedIn, and if you are on LinkedIn and a fairly active user, just type in the chat, like, I'm active on LinkedIn, I'm active. So type that over there on the chat so I can see how many people are active on LinkedIn and how many aren't. But when you think about LinkedIn, I want you to ask yourself this right now. If I was to go and I was to look at my LinkedIn profile, does it say so-and-so, insert your name, let's just say project manager at so-and-so corporation? If it says that, you're going to want to change it. And so here's the deal. You're going through a transition. It's also kind of an identity shift as well. So while you may be used to carrying this particular title, like this is my job, this is the job I do, and that's the face that you're presenting to the world, you want to start getting a little bit more innovative in how you represent the value that you bring without being attached to the company. So there are a couple of examples, and I have these in the guide as well. But let me just read this off to you for an example. So the example I have in there is, let's say it says Candace Spears, project manager at Kohl's Corporation. Okay. What I would want to change that to is Candace Spears, strategic manager of business initiatives, project management expert, project and initiatives expert, expert in communication and project engagement. Anything. See, the laying low part is it can still have something to do with your active role. So people don't think, oh, she's ran off and started a new job. Well, what is she up to and what's going on here? But what you want to do is start to separate your identity from being, I am this particular thing at this company, to I bring this value to the world. And that's regardless of if I'm at this company or if I've got my own. This is the value that I bring to the world. So start to get creative about your forward facing face. Start to be creative about the face that you put out there in professional networks, and let it be the value that you bring, not the title that you have at a particular company. That is starting to step up and be bold. And I'm just going to check the chat here because it's running. It's just not moving for me. Okay, so lots of folks that are active on LinkedIn. Okay, and how many of you, out of curiosity, currently have a title on LinkedIn that is your company title? It is the role that you have at so-and-so company. I'm curious. So go ahead and drop that over in the chat. All right. So that's the first thing that we're going to do, or the first thing that you're going to check for yourself, right? And this might be a fun discovery exercise for you too, especially if you've never thought about, well, what is the value that I bring? You know, what is the value that I bring to this company? What is the value that I bring to the world? Those are very important questions. And if there's anyone on here that is currently coaching with me, I know Lisa is there. You know, we talk very strongly about not only the value you bring, but what's the impact that you want to make in the world. And so even making changes like this, begin to get your thought process in the mind of, all right, let me go ahead and step out there and who I really am. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go on to the next one, just checking the chat. Aha, so Krista, so I do want to address some of these questions. So as they come through, you can feel free to, as things come to you, you can feel free to go ahead and drop them into the chat as well. So Krista, what if our business is in a different field from your job? So this gets very interesting. And the way it gets interesting is it's all about the creativity. So one of the things I would ask yourself, Krista, is, are there some similar values, traits, things that you need to have in your current business, or that serve you very well in your current business, that also serve you very well in the job that you have? And think very generally about it. So, you know, perhaps it's, you know, you have a heavy need to be great at communication, or you have a heavy need to be able to engage people or form relationships or that type of thing. So if you can generalize it a bit and just get creative, you can kind of abstract it. So it's like you don't necessarily, you can go in so many different directions, if that makes sense. Okay. And I see there are still some folks there with some titles. So good opportunities for you. All right, so let's go on to the next one. So one of the other ones, creating my keyboard is not operating here. So one of the other ones that I want to touch on is, all right, so are you collecting feedback and testimonials about you? And notice I said about you and not necessarily about your business, your interaction in your business. When you are creating your business, right, you're the CEO of that business. And by default, because you are the CEO of that business, it's automatically assumed that there's sort of this trickle down. So what I mean is, if she must be good, the business must be worth a shot. If she must be good, what she's offering must be worth a shot. And so what you can do is, during your transition, if you're doing things at work, you know, you're doing things well, maybe you completed a project, whatever it is, I would start asking for feedback. And either you can do this multiple ways. So let me go the first way. I would start asking for feedback, and you can do this through email. How were your experiences with me on this project? And you can spin it in terms of, you know, I really want to have feedback to do better in this area, or, you know, however you want to do it. But what you want to do is start to capture the essence of what makes you awesome and what you're bringing to things. Because the same you that brings that something to a work project is the same you that brings that something to your business. And so this is going to help you tremendously when you're first starting out and you don't necessarily have a lot of testimonials and things like that. Well, you may not have them for the offers that you've created, but you could have them for the value that you bring in general. And that impacts your business as well. And so there's lots of different ways to utilize that. So think about collecting feedback. You can do it in terms of LinkedIn recommendations as well. I do recommend that. I know that some folks get fearful of that. And part of that is because it's that same cycle. I don't want people to think I'm getting ready to change companies, because generally people ask for recommendations when they get ready to change or they get ready to leave and that type of thing. And if that is something that you're concerned about, ask past coworkers. Ask people from a different company, people who have known you well. And the key thing here is when you are soliciting that recommendation, be specific with what you want them to address. So, hey, could you give me a could you write me a recommendation or testimonial, however you want to phrase it, on our experiences working together on such and such a thing, or whatever it is. Collect that insight about you so that when you are fully out the door, it doesn't even have to be when you're fully out the door, because as you're building your business in the meantime, you want to have these things. Don't wait until you're out the door. But you will have this collection of people who are saying amazing things about the value that you bring in the world. So why not work with so-and-so? She's able to bring this type of value, that type of thing. Okay? So that's a super important one. Now let me see, I'll grab one other one, and I have a total of 5. So I have a total of 5 of these points, but I'm not going to cover all of them. You can grab the rest of them in the guide. And let me just scroll up here, see which other one I'd like to just talk about. So here's the other one I want to talk about really quickly. And this one, I kind of went back and forth when I wrote this one, because on one hand, you don't necessarily want to do what I'm about to say. On the other hand, it can be very beneficial for you. Okay, and then Cassandra, I'm going to come back. In fact, no, let me not come back, because it'll go to a different, I'm going on to a different topic. So let me just look at what Cassandra has here. How would you recommend posting feedback from your corporate job to your business website or business profile on LinkedIn or online? Oh, so where, I'm just trying to read it right. Are you asking me, would I recommend that you post it on your business website, your business profile, or LinkedIn? So if that's your question, Cassandra, my thought is this: try to do all of them. So if you can start with a LinkedIn and a Facebook, right? Most people, when you ask them for feedback, are willing to do kind of whatever. So, some people are like, hey, can you post this on Google for me? And here's the link here. Can you put this on my business page? Here's the link here. Can you do it LinkedIn? Here's the link here. So if you can get that and get them to do multiple places, fantastic. Because actually having it there from them, right, directly, like their account had to log in and do it, has that credibility to it. Now, once you have it on those sites, you can easily take it and put it on your website. You don't need them to do anything, right? And you can take a screenshot of what you see on either of those profiles. So the LinkedIn profile, it's got their picture and it's got their words, and you can put it right on there. Same thing with the business page, okay? But you do want, if at all possible, to try to get them to put something on one of those social sites, because that just helps. It's a real person, that type of thing. Okay, so now let me jump into the other one. So this one is around raising your hand for small assignments, very small assignments. And I recognize, as I'm saying this right now, there are probably some of you like, Candace, why would I do that? I want to be gone. I'm not interested in helping with doing anything else at that company. I need to focus on what I'm doing and getting the heck out of Dodge. So hear me out for a second. If there are small tasks or small assignments that could prove valuable as case studies for your business. So they can prove that you delivered something, you did something, and it's very relevant to the business that you're interested in, then I would go for it. Again, keyword here is small. And I emphasize that, right? Because while you want to have that value and you want to be able to get as much of that sort of real world that you can take, you can apply, you can be off and running, you still don't want to drown yourself because you're in a transition. You're supposed to be spending, doing what you need to do at work, but still having a good focus on your business. So if you find some of that low-hanging fruit, or if you find a way to create something, that's the other thing. So open your eyes. If you find your way to create something that is relevant to the business that you want to do, and you can go ahead and say, hey, well, I can do this, blah, 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 and then turn around and use that as a case study. And I know you got to be careful with that sometimes, but use that as a case study. Why not? That's just going to help you in the building of your visibility and the building of your credibility for the business. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to share with you guys, and I'm going to put this down in the chat, and go ahead, and if you have a question, go ahead and drop it, because I'm done. I'm done for today, and I'm going to give you guys this link. Keyboard is not plugged in. I'm going to give you all this link where you can. So beboldinbusiness.gra.com. So we put this together, and you can go and you can download the Smart and Bold Visibility Audit. So it'll have some of the things that I just mentioned, and you'll see I talk about them a little bit more, give some examples, and there's a couple more in there too. So I really want you to, while you're in your transition, again, be smart and be bold. And it is an opportunity for you to be bold and be building and still be somewhat low-key all at the same time. All right. So I really want you guys to take advantage of that. You can go and grab it at the link that I just put in there. So that is all that I have for you all today. And I'm just looking, and I see there are no other questions in the chat. Nope, 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 nope. All right, so I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. And any of you who are joining over the show, the Socially Correct show, one I do with one of my business partners, is happening, and we're talking all about politics in the workplace with other female entrepreneurs and Black female entrepreneurs. And so we'll be talking about that at 7 p.m. Central. So you can head over there. You should be able to see it at Socially Correct Show, the Facebook page. I'll probably post a link here in the group too. So you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll talk to you again soon.